what both sides need to do if they do want to get a good Brexit deal these days is come round the table, get behind one position and work together. There can't be any of this Remain trying to bring down Boris or Boris trying to... They have to actually get in a room, talk out their differences and come to one position, be unified. So there has been that demagoguery and it's been on both sides. But when you're taking government figures, we've seen it. I mean, look at the 2016 referendum. George Osborne, the then Chancellor of the Exchequer, he came out and said it's going to crash the economy overnight, not leaving the European Union, but simply the act of voting to leave the European Union will crash the economy overnight. I'll have to institute an emergency budget with X number of cuts in there. The sky's going to fall in, and it didn't happen. So all of these figures...
Did it not happen perhaps because action was taken from the Governor of the Bank of England at that point immediately after the Brexit vote to prevent the worst fears of that happening?
Actually, I would say it didn't happen entirely because people didn't believe it anymore. These sort of things have been bandied around for a very long time.
But it's a fact that the Governor of the Bank of England did take action to prevent the worst from coming true. So are you saying that those actions that he took had no effect whatsoever?
They may well have had an effect. I'm not an economist, I freely admit that, but they may have had an effect. But it was never going to happen. You see these people in Hyde Park all the time saying that fire is going to rain down from the sky, and if you have 1 + 1 equals 2,
you're
talking about, would they be responsible?
But you are talking about people. Here you're talking about a set of economists. People. We're not talking about people standing on a box at the corner of Hyde Park. You're talking about people who've gone and studied and have degrees in economics, and you have the majority of them. Forecasting, for example, what's going to happen after no deal Brexit. And then on the other side, you have Patrick Minford, right? So, I mean, if you're, from my point of view, I'm a journalist, I'm trying to get an opinion to push to my readers to educate them. If I've got 99 economists on one side saying one thing, and they're all credible economists, I'm not talking about the people standing up and shouting in Hyde Park, and on the other hand, I have 2 economists who say something completely different, I can't just cherry pick and give equal balance to both sides of the opinion. I have to go with the majority view. Just like if you went to a doctor, for example, right? And somebody says, I'm sorry, but it's the worst. We fear the worst, right? And you go for another diagnosis to get a second opinion. Someone goes, oh, no, there's nothing to worry about. But then you have a third and a fourth, and you've got 8 people telling you it's the worst case scenario and 1 person telling you you've got nothing to worry about. Which of them would you believe?
Well, again, going back to lawyers, get in a room with a lawyer.
I'm not asking about lawyers. I've given you a very specific example.
You've given me an analogy and I'm giving you one back.
But you're not answering my question. And my question to you is, 8 doctors tell you it's the worst case scenario. 1 doctor tells you it's nothing to worry about. Which one would you believe?
I don't actually know the answer to that question. Right. Because, again, everyone has their own opinion on these things. One doctor looks at a test result, we see it all the time, gets it wrong. Another doctor looks, gets it wrong. It happens. This has happened time and time again.
Right. So just because a doctor has got something wrong, do you think that it is reasonable or sensible to say, well, doctors have got it wrong in the past, therefore I'm just going to believe whichever one I like the sound of?
Well, isn't that what the Remain side does as well?
I'm not talking about a Remain side. What I'm talking about now is you have a majority, a consensus, whether it's legal experts or whether it's economists, giving you their opinion. People with no skin in the game saying, look, based on the facts and based on what I know and what I can see, these are the outcomes. And you have other people on the other side saying, well, we don't like those, so we're going to pick a minority view and go with that. Does that not seem illogical to you?
No, because it isn't a minority view we're talking about here.
So you've got 99 economists on one side and 1 on the other. That would be a minority view.
Except it's not 99 economists on one side and 1 on
which
the other.
economists have said that a no-deal Brexit will be successful for this country?
You have organisations like the British Chamber of Commerce and the CBI saying one thing, then you have the Alliance of British Entrepreneurs saying another. Both of them have huge memberships. They're great organisations that do well for their members and their interests, but you know, everyone has these different organisations. You can go and you can find these people online and they will tell you Actually, we don't know what's going to happen after Brexit because it's never been done before.
Well, no, no. I think people do know what's going to be happening after Brexit. There's very set rules of us becoming a third country and what that means. But I'm looking at the website of Get Britain Out, and you've got your 3 reasons at it. The country voted to leave the European Union. That is true. That is a fact.
Yes.
But do you believe that the country voted to leave the European Union on a no-deal Brexit? Is that what the country voted for? And can you tell me who at the time in 2016 advocated for a no-deal Brexit?
George Osborne discussed a no-deal Brexit. Michael Gove discussed a no-deal Brexit. David Cameron discussed a no-deal Brexit.
Michael Gove said, and I'm happy to quote him here, the day after we vote to leave, we hold all the cards and can choose the path we want. Michael Gove also said, we didn't vote to leave without a deal. That wasn't the message of the campaign I helped lead. That was March 2019. That's what Michael Gove said.
Yeah, that's 3 years on.
No, he said that March 2019. We didn't vote to leave without a deal. That wasn't the message of the campaign I helped lead. He was one of the leading...
3 years on from the campaign itself. At the time, people were saying, if we're leaving without a deal.
Name one person, a leading Leave campaigner who said, if we vote to leave, we leave without a deal, because I cannot find one.
Boris Johnson, Michael Gove.
Boris Johnson said, "We will. If you vote to leave, we leave without a deal."
At various points, he said,
"No, I'm not asking for various points. I'm just asking for once that any one of the leading Brexit campaigners said a vote to leave would mean leaving without a deal back in 2016. That's the claim you're making."
Yes, back during the campaign, Boris said we will leave without a deal. Michael Gove said we will leave without a deal. There were people on the Remain side who said we will leave without a deal.
I'm sorry, Harry. I put it to you categorically that is not true.
Well,
none of those people said that a vote to leave back in 2016 would mean us ending up leaving without a deal. Everybody at the time was talking about how we held all the cards, how we could choose the path we wanted, how getting the deal would be the easiest deal in history. No one at that point advocated leaving without a deal. You've also got people like Daniel Hannan saying no one is seriously threatening our position in the single market. You've got even people like Nigel Farage, and I quote, "Wouldn't it be dreadful if we were like Norway? Wouldn't it be awful? Can you imagine being rich and free and able to catch our own fish?" No one, not a single person, Harry, said at that time that a vote to leave, a vote to vote out of the European Union would mean the UK would leave without a deal.
I beg to differ on that. Back at the time, people were saying these things.
If you could produce any evidence...
They were saying it in interviews, they were saying it in columns.
Well, in that case, you should have plenty of quotes at hand.
I've given you the quote. There will be no...
Give me the quote.
Boris Johnson said it. Michael Gove said it. David
Boris
Cameron
Johnson said it. I'd like the
it.
quote, please.
I can't give you the exact wording of the quote.
But you've based your whole website, your whole ideology. You are saying to me that a vote to leave was a vote to leave without a deal. And yet you cannot, this is your whole ideology, and you cannot give me the quote of any of the leading figures of the Leave campaign saying a vote to leave meant that the UK would leave without a deal.
It was said at the time.
You can keep saying that, Harry, but unless you actually give me a quote by someone who said it and where they said it, with article, which tweet, which interview, you're just saying, oh, people said it at the time. And when I ask you for specifics, you can't give me any.
If I give you a specific and I get it slightly wrong, then I look silly. If I just say, yes, they said it, they did.
Do you know what? I'll settle for a slight specific with you looking slightly silly, because I put it to you that not a single leading light of the Leave campaign at that time, back in 2016, said that a vote to leave meant we leave without a deal. Leaving without a deal became a thing, if you like, only in the last 12 to 14 months, when it was quite evident that any written down version of Brexit wasn't going to pass Parliament and didn't actually make sense when it came to negotiating with the EU.
Again, I very much dispute that. People have been talking about a WTO Brexit as far back as the 90s. Oliver Letwin actually wrote a document back in the 90s all about leaving the European Union and talked about leaving without a deal on WTO terms. So, you know, this has been talked about for about 30 years now, leaving without a deal.
Which should make it really easy for you to give me proper references, written down references, all these things that you talk about of people advocating a no-deal Brexit for years since the 90s, and yet you cannot come up with a single one. And that has been the crux of the Get Britain Out campaign, and you can't come up with any quote.
Look, I'm not going to sit here and regurgitate a quote in case I get it wrong, and then someone gets upset, because this happens from time to time. People do get very annoyed if you get their words wrong. Having worked in politics for a while, I get annoyed when politicians mess up speeches I've written for them, so I'm not going to do that disservice to people.
Are you familiar with the document by the ERG back in 2015 called Change or Go?
I can't recall that specific document, no.
It's 1,000 pages, and it was printed by the ERG. It was a little booklet. There was the plan of leaving, and what this is before the 2016 referendum. At the time, under the paragraph, what do we mean by leaving the EU? Options included Norway, an extension of Article 50. No deal wasn't mentioned in there.
Well, again, that's the opinion of one group within Parliament.
All right. I feel that no matter how many times I ask you, you're not going to come up with...
I don't represent the ERG.
No, you don't represent the ERG, but you're sitting here making a big claim. And the claim that you are making is that the option that the UK had of leaving without a deal was given to the people to vote on. And you are taking the result of the 2016 referendum, the result of 52 voting to leave, as a mandate for the UK leaving on no deal. And I put it to you that that is not true.
Well, look at the question that was on the referendum paper. The question was, do you wish to leave the European Union or remain in the European Union? It was leave or remain, simple binary. There was no choice on there for a deal.
So if I said to you, do you want to go out to eat or stay in, right? The out to eat, if you say I want to go out, that can be a myriad of things. I could take you for a kebab, I could take you for an ice lolly, I could take you for a Chinese, and I could take you for a Greek, right?
I mean, if you're having an ice lolly for dinner, I'd say something's very wrong with you, but there was deliberate ambiguity in it. I would argue there was that deliberate ambiguity in it from the people who wrote the question in order to ensure that there would be this sort of artificial divide, saying, well, we didn't vote for no deal, we voted for this.
But you're quite clear on what it meant, though.
I'm quite clear that we are leaving the European Union. The legal default position is we leave without a deal, and that isn't going to be the end of the world.